Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Cohen, reporting to you from Investing Across Borders, where we teach you how to invest, live, work, and play across borders. I'm an international legal and real estate investing expert, and I am here today with a really special guest, my very good friend and mentor on many levels, Jill Lublin. I have known Jill now about 3 years. And we met in December, I guess, of 2018 when I first joined CEO Space. And Jill was the very first person that I heard speaking at a CEO Space breakout session. I showed up in Tampa with crazy wondering, what am I getting myself into here back in the day when we had live events? And I went in and Jill was talking about, imagine this, publicity. And I was like, wow. And I was mesmerized. Jill and her friend Randy Pizer, who was also a dear friend of mine. And I was like, what? This lady knows her stuff. She is like a publicity gorilla, as she has gorilla publicity in her background. She really is. She can make something like a public message that doesn't even seem like a public message to start. She has that gift, like selling ice to Eskimos, right? So Jill, why don't, now that I've given you that little intro, why don't you say hi and introduce yourself for a second?
So hi, everyone, and it's great to be here with you, Lauren, and all of your listeners and viewers. I do also remember that day. It was so powerful and so special. And yes, we've been friends and colleagues ever since. I'm the author of 4 books, including Guerrilla Publicity and The Profit of Kindness. And to that end, I run interactive live virtual publicity courses and an intentional kindness community. Super fun. So those are the 2 main things that I do.
And Jill has always just been so giving and generous with her time, with her thoughts, with her input about how do you navigate this CEO Space forum. I was completely clueless, and I was like a little puppet following her around, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? It's a little overwhelming at first when you first get there. And Jill honestly gave me amazing pointers and helped me to feel comfortable and safe and included, because it's definitely a network of people, but they keep bringing in new people, and Jill was really instrumental in making me feel super comfortable. And she also is a great referrer of clients and has an international presence that is just unbelievable. And we also spent a week together last year, or a year and a half ago now, on the Marketers Cruise, which is happening right now, but neither of us, as you can see, is on it, but next year. But we had a blast on there, and Jill taught me something on there too about getting this spa pass. And I just booked a cruise this morning, Jill. You'll be proud of me. And I said, does this cruise ship have a spa pass? So they're like, yes. I'm like, sign me up. What does it cost? So Jill knows how to take care of herself and her clients, and she's just incredible. Jill, why don't you just give us a little piece of what all of this amazing things you do? Like when you spoke at CEO Space, honestly, I learned so much about different tips and different, just share a little bit with my listeners, please.
Sure. You want me to share some of the tips?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? I would love to. So, the thing I talk most about is how to get publicity for your business, how to get your message out, because here's what I know. We all have a message inside of us, right? You do your business because it's something that propels you. There's something that drives you to help others. So what I want to support you with, all of you, is think about what is your message, really. Like, let's start there, right? And so when you're putting yourself out there, it's not just like, oh, here's what I do, here's what I do, here's what I do, because people won't relate to that as much as like what Lauren's saying. Yeah, I helped her out. I helped her navigate. I answered her questions. Like, what are you offering in your message that gives value and benefit to others? And so one of the things I always recommend is be a solution to a problem. And I would ask you, what's the problem out there, right? Not like, oh, here's what I do, but what's the problem out there. You know, like Lauren's talking about navigating international waters, so to speak. How do you take your business global? In fact, honestly, if you're not global in today's world, you're probably missing out,
You're right.
realistically. You should
Agreed.
be able to go all over the world
Yep.
via Zoom, via everything you do, right? And so that's a real piece of finding the right message is always like, if I had to wave a magic wand, here's my star. I'll pretend it's a magic wand because you are a star, all of you listening, and we have to find the star that's within your message, that star part. And
Yeah.
that's the key.
Yeah, 100% agreed. It's interesting because when you're finding your star and your solution, it's not always what you think at the beginning. Things change as you move through the process. Like for me, my message didn't come clear to me until actually, believe it or not, Jill, the marketers cruise. And we were just brainstorming about different things. And one of our mutual colleagues helped me come up with this tagline. And from there, then COVID hit, right? Very soon after the cruise. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching people how to go global and nobody's doing anything at the beginning of COVID. They were scared. They were like, I don't know what to do. Not only were they not going across borders, they weren't doing anything in their own backyard. So it was a very scary time for me with my business, but I helped as you may recall, I was helping people get money from the SBA. That's what was needed, right? That was the problem. And I provided a solution and it helped me to build a little bit of a tribe. And that's really what's all about, building your message. And through all of that, the real estate kept playing a role. And now it's all interconnected. But certainly it takes a village. It's not something that you do on your own, which is where CEO Space is so powerful because it's all about collaboration and sharing and bringing value. You're not there to sell. As a matter of fact, those of us on faculty, we can't sell. We have to be able to give and provide value. And Jill does that every single day. I wanted to ask you when.
Hey, Lauren, can I interrupt there? Because
Yes.
there's something I want to point out, that you actually pivoted, so to speak, in what you were offering, right?
100%.
You said when people needed loans, there you were telling them how to get SBA loans, et cetera. That was really powerful. You were solving problems. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And now you're pivoting to what you normally do. But really, here's the key. Because you were a solution to people's problems right in the beginning, like you said, you built your tribe. And the power of what Publicity does, putting your name out there, being a solution provider, is, I call it the 3 M's: magnetize, multiply, and monetize.
Monetize is always not the first one. It's always got to be the last one. And Jill, I think that one of the things that you're so great at doing is finding, as you call it, the ooh-ah factor. What is the ooh-ah factor? It's like fireworks. What is that?
I love the ooh-ah factor. First of all, saying it's a lot of fun. So that always helps. See, because that's the point. It's a soundbite. And
Yeah.
my question to all of you is, where's your sound bites? Do you have them, right? Like, what are those things that make people go, oh, ooh, ah, right? And pay attention. So ooh, ah factor is about using, I like to call it, everything you've got. Use everything you've got. What do I mean? I mean all parts of you. I mean all precious elements of who you are. I mean your ethnicity, your religion. I mean everything you can use it all. My Hispanic clients go to Hispanic media. My African American clients go to Black media, and so on and so forth. What can you be using? And I find a lot of people don't use that. Like, listen, when my books came out, I'd go back to Detroit, Michigan, where I'm from originally, and I'd say, I do a story like Detroit Girl Makes Good, right? That's the story that actually got me into the Detroit Free Press, major paper, super great. Use everything you've got, all aspects. It's really important.
Jill, let's talk a little bit about books, because you not only help people get publicity, but you also help people get published. And you and Randy partner on that and just create amazing best-selling opportunities and the opportunity to sell your book before it's even written. Give me just a little brief synopsis of how that looks, because so many entrepreneurs have a book in their head and they need help getting it to publishers or on paper or whatever that might be.
Yeah, so a couple things. One is if you have a great book idea, good, because what we want to start with is the idea. And by the way, that includes publicity, which I think most people wait way too long to do when everything's perfect or whatever reason you have. Because here's the thing, your promotion, your publicity begins when it's a twinkle in your eye, the book idea even, right? Even starting writing articles, because publishers want influence. And the reason that I've been able to get 6-figure book deals for some of my clients, and actually book deals period, is because they have influence and impact. Now, guess what publicity does? Gives you influence and impact. That's why it ties so well together. But I will tell you, getting a book published is a process. I mean, even mine, and I've got 4 of them, Guerrilla Publicity, this is the 3rd edition. Most of my books, this one with McGraw-Hill, Get Noticed, Get Referrals, took 18 months. Okay, and that was after the contract was signed, after the book was pitched. So I always tell people, you got to figure 18 to, well, let me just make that bigger. Let's say 24 months to 3 years in the book process. And that's where people lose their patience because, you know, whatever, something's not right, something, you know, whatever. Things happen in the book process. And in fact, with The Profit of Kindness, I actually wanted them to call it The Currency of Kindness, which I thought was a super great title. My publisher changed it. So what I always say to people is never get too attached to anything you think that you want to write, because what the publishers need is what they need. In fact, funny enough, inside story, the Get Noticed, Get Referrals was actually called Connecting from the Heart. But McGraw-Hill needed a referrals book. And, you know, here's the thing. What I've learned with publishers, you just say yes, you get going, you get a book out there. Because see The Profit of Kindness? Now check this out. That book is now in India, because I help people get foreign rights too. It's now in India with the biggest publisher that publishers Brian Tracy and Deepak Chopra, and now Jill Lublin, super excited. And I just got this, check it out.
Oh, wow.
I just got this. This is the Russian copy.
I was going to say, that looks like Russian to me.
Yes, it is. It is the Russian copy of The Profit of Kindness. And, you know, I love to say we are sending and creating kindness all around the world.
And that's what this is all about, because you're not, you know, we are spreading your love and your kindness and your knowledge across borders. And Jill has been doing that for a long time, and she continues to do it and have this global impact. As a matter of fact, she just referred a client to me in Australia that it's just a norm. It's not even an exception, it's the norm. And another thing I remember is when she and Randy were talking about this book deal before you write the book, I was like, what? I wrote a book and I didn't make any money. What did I do wrong? Literally, I did everything wrong that you could do in terms of marketing the book. Though I have a book, so I have a book. That's it. And Jill always also taught something. If you have a book, you should show it beside your, when you're speaking, like kind of like she just did with the Russian version, right? Now I could do that with my book. It's over here somewhere and I forget all the time, but I could do it. And you know, it's still, people buy it, but it's not a fun, sexy book. Okay. The only fun, sexy thing in that book is the story about my ex-husband being deported, which is fun and sexy now, but wasn't that fun and sexy when it happened? And Jill knows that story because she's heard it from me a few times. But the truth is that it's often that, like Jill has the story about the Detroit girl turned great, or you know, the success story. These are the stories that people want to know. You were a struggling little girl, you were shy, right? And your brother was, I remember your brother, something with your brother.
He's actually mentally ill. He's bipolar. He has never held a job. He lives in a group home. It's pretty intense. It's actually gotten worse. His mental illness. Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps, but I remembered that story. And, you know, we all have a story. And sometimes, including me, we're a little apprehensive about telling that story. Look, when my son was born, okay, he turned 11, Jill, on last Thursday. Okay. Wow.
It's amazing. I never thought I'd make it to this point when I can leave him for 5 minutes on his own and take the dog for a walk. When my son was born, I was on food stamps. It was bad. I mean, my dad, Oliver Shalom, was sick with ALS. My parents didn't have, and I had to do what I had to do. I mean, I'm a single mom, and that's it. And, he should never know from this, but at the same time, it taught me that I can get through it, and there will be that silver lining. And that's really my story. And at the time, it's maybe embarrassing or humbling or whatever the case is, but these are the stories that make us what we are. It's through that situation with Jill's sibling that she probably became that much kinder and more tolerant, because she lived with it all of her life, right? And are you the younger sibling or older?
I'm actually his older sister, who we would follow around the house and call Honey. And I'm also the one who would take him to the basement and teach him, as this teaching thing started early for me. I remember I was like 8 and he was 5. He was starting to show signs, right around then. My mother also was very mentally ill. So I was really the mom in the family, the responsible one. As you can tell, it's kind of continued the responsibility piece. And, I think that I was actually very embarrassed to talk about my mental illness in my family, which, by the way, is quite prevalent with my mom, with my younger brother, and some other things in my family that are a problem, including my other siblings, right? And a sister who has MS on top of everything. So,
wow.
it's just an interesting thing that I just will tell you, I didn't want to talk about it, right? And then here's what's interesting. As I've begun to talk about it, to let this out, to show, people will come up to me and they're like, I have mental illness in my family too. Because what happens is people relate to you. Now, I think it's important that you learn how to tell stories as part of your story, right? And to incorporate it so that it's powerful and emotional, and that you are using the vulnerable parts in good ways, in positive ways. And there are some times where you don't use those, where you stand on, your business story, because that's what's appropriate. So I think it's a little bit, you gotta kind of know different audiences. And what I know is that, like, particularly when I was speaking, which I do a lot of, for women's audiences, they can appreciate more so. And this is a sweeping generalization, but yeah, a little bit more so around the heartfelt parts of the stories, and they want to hear your story.
Right.
So I just will tell you these, that like everything in life, I'm always looking for what's the part of the story that's interesting, that's powerful. People forget like the most obvious things about their story sometimes, and that needs fixing. So that's a real piece of it. But again, use everything you've got. I'll tell you what, there's a coach I work with. She's a confidence coach, and when Black Lives Matter hit, I said to her, forget every story we've been doing about how to be more confident, because of course we were teaching people how to do that. I want you to go out and talk about how to be a strong Black woman and speak confidently in today's times. She's African American. That's the story that actually got her in all kinds of media, not the other business story. So sometimes you'll be using everything you've got in response to what's going on. Like when Simone Biles quit the Olympics, everybody who was a mental health expert that I know, I sent them out like, this is your moment, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think we're all so good at that. I mean, I'm certainly not using everything I've got, which is why I need to work with you more often. So, it's really true. And it's like anything. We all think that we can get where we need to go doing whatever it is that we need to do. But without experts like Jill in our corner, helping us, guiding us, mentoring us, we're never going to get over that threshold, because we can't see that story that Jill can see. That's Jill's superpower. And Jill has finessed that superpower over time. The other thing about Jill is she's truly like a den mom. She's been saying that. I mean, really, that's how she came to me at the beginning. It's kind of like, I'll help you. I'll hold your hand like a big sister. And I even remember talking about talking about the way we were dressed at some point and kind of giving tips to each other. Do you remember that, Jill? So
Yes.
we've been there's a few other stories we won't share, but we've had some good laughs together, a few good cries together in this very short time, half of which has been through COVID. So we haven't seen each other physically, although once we do, we will definitely be giving each other a big hug. But she, you know, Jill is just that real cheerleader for you. And I can't recommend her enough, or the opportunity to speak with her. Now, on that note, how do people speak with you?
Absolutely. So first thing is I have a gift for your peeps always. I love giving gifts. And so I created an action guide. And when you actually, it's a publicity action guide filled with great tips on how to get your name out there. And when you click on that, also sign up for my free publicity masterclass. This is live and interactive with me. So super fun. It's an opportunity to get your PR questions answered live with me. And to get both of those, it's all in one. You go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. All right. That's a great way to connect with me.
Well, that will all be in the show notes. And thank you for sharing that. And definitely take advantage of it. Take advantage of any opportunity to work with this wonderful woman. JillLublin.com, publicitycrashcourse.com. You can find Jill anywhere, because guess what? She's a publicist, so she gets herself noticed too. She's very good at that. And she has just an amazing wealth of information to share with you. Jill, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you for sharing some insights with my audience. I'm Lauren Cohen, and I wanted to mention, as I forgot at the beginning, that this podcast is sponsored by Lendi, an artificial intelligence lending facility that lends money to foreign investors from Canada, the US, the UK, and Israel. Imagine that, because it's an Israeli-based company, investing into US real estate, non-owner occupied, up to 4 units at the moment. And I absolutely adore them. It takes 2 minutes to process your application, and it's a great thing. Actually, they may need some publicity, Jill. So maybe there's a referral there. You never know. Anyway, thank you, Jill Lublin. I'm Lauren Cohen, international legal and real estate investment expert, signing off for today from Investing Across Borders, the podcast where we teach you how to invest, live, work, and play across borders. And please do subscribe. We are on all of the major podcast channels. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you again, Jill. Ciao for now.